Brett Mix here, Macho Wrestling 101. Hit like and subscribe if you like my content. I do history of wrestling videos every day. Today we got the 1998 King of the Ring to look at. Took place June 28th, 1998 from the Civic Center in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. 17,087 fans attended this event. 310,000 fans bought it on pay-per-view. Obviously, the Undertaker, Mankind, Hell in a Cell with the King of the Ring tournament with Steve Austin, being Steve Austin in 1998, versus Kane, with the stipulation of Kane setting himself on fire if he didn't lose in the first ever First Blood match. It had a lot of people talking about the King of the Ring and wanting to watch it. So, for a non-Big Four pay-per-view, it was definitely that's a great buy rate. Especially since the WWF weren't getting monster buy rates back in early 1998 quite yet. WrestleMania did very well, but King of the Ring in 1998, it outperformed expectations. Let's just put it that way. As for the quality of the event, well, let's take a look. The 6-man tag opened up the pay-per-view because they open up pay-per-views quite a lot. It's a good idea to get events open up with a tag match because it gets the fans entertained. Everybody gets their spots in. It's usually a schmoz, and that's what ended up happening here. Mosh Thrasher tagged with Taka Michinoku, a former Kaientai member, to take on Yamaguchi-san's Kaientai, which was made up of Men's Teo, Dick Togo, and Sho Funaki. You can recognize Funaki, but the other two guys didn't really have much of a tenure other than cutting off Val Venus's member on that one Raw segment. Anyways, don't ask me why I remember that. Funaki makes it tag to Togo and gets caught with a monkey flip that sends him to the floor. Togo regained control, who planted Taka with a DDT, and then Taka Michinoku landed a spine buster. Togo springs off the middle ropes with a headbutt. Funaki tags in and he accidentally hits Teo, which lets Taka make the hot tag. Everyone starts hitting everyone as the ref loses control. Funaki misses an elbow off the top. Funaki gets the tag and gives the Bangers elevate him in the air for a splash on Funaki. Taka hits the Taka Michinoku driver and finishes him at 6:44 to end the 6-man tag, which I rate 2.5 stars due to the fact that it was an entertaining match and it was kept under 7 minutes. That's all good. That's all good and fine with me. So a decent opener. This was actually one of 2 matches that Jim Ross called bonus matches. Don't know how much of a bonus it is, but they had to kill time on the pay-per-view, obviously. So that's why the next segment took place. We had Sable coming to the ring, introducing Mr. McMahon, and literally all that Vince McMahon talks about is how sons and daughters hate their parents and blame their parents for everything. This would make sense if he was feuding with Shane or Stephanie, but Shane and Stephanie didn't even get brought to TV at this point. This was just Vince McMahon being a heel, furthering the McMahon being a heel. That's all the segment was, and it was there to kill time. Pat Patterson ends up slapping Sable on the ass, and then Sable slaps Pat Patterson in the face. Jim Ross says that on commentary, he's going to new territory because he touched a woman. The next match of the night, it's the King of the Ring semifinal. It's Jeff Jarrett with Tennessee Lee against Ken Shamrock. This is actually a surprisingly decent match here. Some good chemistry. Jeff Jarrett's a good worker, and Ken Shamrock learned to work the WWF style. Tennessee Lee was at the ringside trying to stir shit up. Shamrock fights back with an elbow and then a kick to the face. Jumping back elbow on a spinning heel kick for a power slam. Jarrett misses a clothesline and Shamrock snaps off the ankle lock. Jarrett immediately taps to the ankle lock at 5:30. So the quality of this match was over quantity. It ended at 5 minutes and 30 seconds, but it was 2 stars and 3/4, I would say. That is my rating. Next, we had the other semifinal of the King of the Ring. Who's going to face Shamrock in the final? The Rock with the Godfather and Mark Henry versus Dan the Beast Severn. The Rock was the Intercontinental Champion at this point, and he was catching on with the crowd. The crowd was slowly starting to go from Rocky sucks to, well, they weren't really chanting Rocky, but they would applaud a lot of his moves, like his Tornado DDT. It's not quite a Tornado DDT. It's a float over DDT. But it's a move that the fans were really, that and the People's Elbow, the fans were starting to really get behind. It wasn't called the People's Elbow, obviously, back then. It was, but The Rock was just starting it out, and the fans were starting to get to it. By the time SummerSlam 98 came, when The Rock faced Triple H in that ladder match just a few months after this, when he did the People's Elbow, everyone in New York went nuts. So The Rock was catching on in June 1998, but very slowly. They just noticed he was becoming an entertaining heel, and then he blew up after that. Shamrock, Dan Severn, there's no Shamrock, but people thought maybe Shamrock was going to face Severn for an all UFC final. Didn't end up happening. The Rock ended up winning at 425 after one of those float over DDTs, and D'Lo came with a chest protector from the outside and took apart Severn. So The Rock got the pin at 425. Decent match, not really good. I rate it 1 star. The Rock carried it, but it really wasn't much of anything. Next, we had the tag team of Too Much, Too Cool, before they were Too Cool, versus Al Snow and Head. So yeah, Head is Al Snow's partner in the match, and it's supposed to be a comedy match. Jerry Lawler is the referee, and Jerry Lawler is obviously Brian Christopher's dad, so that was the storyline here. And in the end, I'll just say this, it went 8 minutes and 27 seconds, the longest match of the night so far. And they put a Head and Shoulders bottle on the head, so get it, Head and Shoulders. So, and Brian Christopher pinned the Head, and Jerry Lawler counted the 3 for that instead of Al Snow covering Scott Taylor. Scotty Too Hottie. So instead of that, we get that, and the heels go over. And Jim Ross says it best on comment. I rated it a dud, by the way, if there was any concern or any confusion. Jim Ross said it best on commentary. He said, that match, which was Bowling Shoe Ugly, he said, that's the first of that we've seen, and it's probably the last. Yep, no more booking like that. X-Pac with China versus Owen Hart. Well, you live and learn, right? You see what works and what doesn't. The Attitude Era was full of taking chances, throwing things at the wall, seeing what stuck, and a lot of stuff stuck. So why not try that match? I get it, but as a wrestling match, it's the shits. So anyway, moving on. X-Pac with China versus Owen Hart. These two met at King of the Ring 4 years before this in a 3.5 minute match that I rated 3.5 stars. I remember that because it was just a few days ago, and also because it was one of the best matches under 4 minutes the WWF or maybe ever. I'm sure somewhere in Japan there's been a 4 minute match that outdoes it, but 3.5 minutes, 3.5 stars. Owen and the Kid worked magic. This match had some similar spots to that match, but it didn't play to the same level. Owen Hart wasn't. He wasn't as engaged in 1998 as he was in 1994. He was still athletically every bit as good, but he didn't seem into his nation character as much as he was into the King of Hearts. So that took off. Plus, the X-Pac wasn't as crafty as the 1-2-3 Kid. So the match went 3 stars. It went at 8:31, and I rated it 3 stars. X-Pac got the victory as China obviously gets involved. Plants Owen with a DDT. Vader came out and battled Mark Henry. X-Pac rolls over for the pinfall, gets the victory. And that's that. So 3 stars for that match. Paul Bearer's out to cut a promo, and he said that this is going to be a not missed night for the world. He said that Kane is going to be announced the new WWF champion, and just screamed into the mic. At one point, Paul Bearer said, "And do you know what I will be after that?" And then a fan yelled, you could hear a fan yell, "A fat piece of shit." I'm not body shaming anybody. I mean, I got a little bit of a stomach right now, but a little bit, but for me, so I'm not fat shaming. But that was a funny comment from a crowd member. Sometimes fans yell out stuff that's right at the time that was just perfectly timed, and it was hilarious because Paul Bearer was getting on everyone's nerves at the time. The New Age Outlaws defend the titles against the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette. This is a new Midnight Express of Bombastic Bob and Bodacious Bart. And that's Bob Holly and Bart Gunn. Taking on the New Age Outlaws, Billy Gunn. I wonder if they still recognized him as his Bart Gunn's brother. I didn't hear anything in the match, so I don't think so, but they share the same last name. The Outlaws defended the titles, and this is the second bonus match. So a tag title match is a bonus match, apparently. So that's what Jim Ross was said on commentary. And this was the Cornette's version of the NWA coming back into the WWF. So they had the NWA tag titles against the WWF tag titles. Chyna missed her spot in this match. Chyna was supposed to low blow Jim Cornette, who came in with the title to try and hit Road Dogg or Billy Gunn. Jim Cornette stood there with the title for at least a minute, and he's shooted on this on the internet about how how good Chyna was. He said that Chyna was supposed to low blow him like 30 seconds before she did. So Jim Cornette's standing there with the title and waiting for the spot for Chyna to give her the low blow, and Chyna gets distracted on the outside. So Chyna does eventually do it, and they get the low blow, and the Outlaws end up winning the titles, retaining the titles with a hot shot for the pin at 9:56. The match was decent, 2 stars, because all 4 guys are competent wrestlers, and they put on a decent match, but the fans aren't buying the new Midnight Express. That wasn't happening. And the Chyna Jim Cornette thing makes for funny commentary by Jim Cornette, and basically funny stuff when it comes off as. Next, we have the King of the Ring final, The Rock versus Ken Shamrock. Triple H is on commentary for this match. Chyna's doing Spanish commentary on this match for the Spanish table, and they asked Triple H, "Are you bilingual?" And Triple H says, "I'm bi a lot of things, but the bilingual is not one of them." And then he said, "Oh wait, did I mean to say that?" And JR says, "Yeah, you did. I don't think you did, but you did, sport," or something like that. So Triple H poking fun at the fact that he's bisexual. I don't think he's bisexual, but he pretty much said he was in a joking way. So Triple H is making all kinds of jokes. The DX gimmick really, Triple H as the leader of DX really allowed the creativity of Triple H to blossom as a character. Because before he was stuck in that rich snob gimmick, as we saw at the last King of the Ring when he won it, the DX version just made him just a comedic presence. I don't think he was as funny as he thought he was, but he still was funny at times. I think he was always jealous of The Rock's comedy, The Rock's comic abilities. I think him and Shawn both were. Anyways, the King of the Ring match between Ken Shamrock and The Rock. The Rock seemed above the King of the Ring title at this point. The Rock was the Intercontinental Champion for like half the year. And the King of the Ring title was great, but it's gone to people like Mabel, and it doesn't really do anything. You don't get a SummerSlam title shot like you did in 2002. So there was no coronation. This didn't do anything for Ken Shamrock. Shamrock gets the victory as Rock taps out at 14-10 after a hot shot and then an ankle lock. So Shamrock wins. Shamrock's the King of the Ring, and like I say, it didn't do much for him, but the match was good. 3 stars and a quarter. Next up, we had the Hell in a Cell match between The Undertaker and Mankind. Good God. This is the one everyone's waiting for, obviously, if you're even watching this review. But I'm sure you've seen it a million times and you don't need to hear me. But Mankind and The Undertaker. I've already reviewed this match on Matches of the Day. I'm not sure if by the time I post this, if it'll be posted. I'll do that. Yeah, I'll make sure I post it before this review goes up. But I reviewed the match. I went over Mankind's injuries, and it sounds something like dislocated shoulder, dislocated jaw, bumps, bruises, missing teeth, concussion, hundreds of tacks in you. There's a few other ones. Oh yeah, internal bleeding. the top. We all know Mankind tried to suplex Undertaker off the top of the Hell in a Cell. It started on the top, and Undertaker threw Mankind off the cell through the table. We all know that. Undertaker had a broken foot at the time, so Mankind was worried that this Hell in a Cell was not going to be able to match up to the Shawn Michaels, to the other Hell in a Cell between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, the original. So Mankind knew he had to do something, so they planned the bump. They didn't plan the second bump. Foley comes off the stretcher, and JR apologizes because the fans wanted to see a Hell in a Cell match, and the King says, "How do you apologize for that?" Which is true. But Mankind still, with his dislocated shoulder, ends up climbing the cage again. And then he was fighting with Taker in the Hell in a Cell. There was a planned choke slam, but it wasn't supposed to go through the cell. He was through the cell, and it must have felt like getting slammed on concrete, because that the wrestlers will tell you that mat is hard. Taking a bump is hard. Taking a suplex is hard. Taking a power slam is hard. Going off the top rope for a superplex is 10 times harder. So imagine going through a cell and then hitting it. And not only that, but the chair went down with them, knocking a tooth through Mankind's nose and knocking him unconscious. So, yeah, when Jim Ross says, good God, will somebody stop the damn match? And JR and King says, okay, he's dead. It wasn't overkill. That was legitimately thought at the time. Maybe not dead, but the guy's got to be near it. And then he gets slammed on tacks, choke slammed on tacks, body slammed on tacks, then a tombstone, not on tacks, but could you imagine? There was a couple cell bumps, a couple step bumps as well. So I rate it 4.5 stars. It's just like WrestleMania match between The Rock and Hogan. It's not known for its grappling. It doesn't get stars for that. It gets the stars for where it stands in history. Its violence factor. Taker wins at 17:38. So 4.5 stars. You could rate this match 1 star, or you could rate it 5 stars, and you'd be right. You could be right either way. This isn't a match that should be defined by stars. This is just a match that is one of the greatest of all time. And just like The Rock and Hogan, it's one of the greatest of all time, even though the star ratings aren't really necessitate what it is. Anyways, the WWF title is on the line in the main event with the first blood. Whoever bleeds first. Kane is in a full attire, so how the hell is he gonna bleed? Stone Cold has a staph infection and came back from it, and then he has a taped up arm. Austin with white tape. Austin and Kane got it on. The Hell in a Cell would keep lowering and then raising during the match, so they got to work with the cell a little bit. They said who was doing it. Obviously, you would think that it was McMahon's cronies doing the lowering and the hiring, because it would happen when Austin was on the defense most of the time, when the cell would lower or higher. The crowd, and obviously this was to get Austin to bleed. Austin's back had a cut on it, and JR was saying that the referee said that it wasn't just going to be a minor cut that ended up being the deciding factor in the victory. This is a good match between Austin and Kane. It's a good brawl. It wrestles like a good first blood match. Taker comes out. Mankind comes out first and tries to attack with a chair. Taker comes out, tries to hit Mankind. Mankind ducks, and Taker hits a chair into the face of Austin. Austin blades and is bloody as hell. And then Austin hits the stunner on Kane. And then Taker lays out Kane. And Austin is seen by Hebner, and the bell rings, and we have a new WWF champion at 14:53, and it's Kane, because Austin is bleeding. So Kane would lose the title 24 hours later, but at the same time, it was cool to see that masked 1998 Kane with the WWF title. I mean, I understand Austin being red hot and being the guy, but it would have been nice to see Kane with a reign that maybe could have been a couple months long. Maybe have Austin win it if he's losing at King of the Ring. Maybe have Austin win it back at Fully Loaded, maybe Fully Loaded. That would have been good. But no, he lost it 24 hours later. But still, I mean, Stone Cold needed the title at the time, so it was understandable. As for the event, it's a 7 out of 10, mostly because of the finals of the King of the Ring being competent. The main event being cool. and the Hell in a Cell match. That it's a one match, and it's not quite a one match show, but that's renowned for the Hell in a Cell. It's one of the most talked about matches ever. It's the number one oh my god moment. This is the match people show people who don't like wrestling. It's that good, and it's that important in the history of wrestling. Or it's as Mankind even put it, Mick Foley. He gave lectures on it, and he said it was beautiful. I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but it was definitely an iconic moment, one of the greatest moments in wrestling history. So the event is it's a watch for that, and because it's the Attitude Era, full Attitude Era at the time, things were fun. Not everything on the show was fun, but things were fun enough to watch it. So it gets a good rating. I'm Brett Mix for King of the Ring 1998, 7 out of 10. We'll see you back for King of the Ring 1999. And even though the Attitude Era is better by that point, ratings-wise, that event unfortunately won't be. But as we saw with the 1995 King of the Ring review, it might be an entertaining review, even if it's a bad show. So tune in for that. Hit like and subscribe if you have not already done so. And I'm Brett Mix, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.